Good morning and welcome to our virtual service. My name is James Parker. Thank you for being here with us today. My lesson title today is The Benefits of Silence. There is an infinite pool of stillness inside of all of us, and there are many ways to access this very supportive supply of peace and wisdom. But one of the simplest is by going into silence. We tend to think a spiritual journey is necessary to discover God and our inner divinity. But there is no need to go anywhere or do anything to find God. Amid all experience, whether we label it spiritual or human, is silence. Silence is the center of all being. Christian mystic Father Thomas Keating says, "The language of God is silence. Everything else is a poor translation." The silence is a condition in which conscious thinking and body action or motion are stilled as much as possible to let God take over. This can be practiced at any time or anywhere. And the steps to a successful experience in the silence are easy. Become still. Pray to God. God responds to us in the silence. And then up through the subconscious and conscious mind, or what you might call the soul, comes the response. Then we simply wait for conditions to develop or appear around us to prove that God has heard and all is well. Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore started his practice of the silence in the pursuit of truth. He wished to move beyond the contradictions and paradoxes he was seeing and reading about. He said to himself, "If I am spirit and this God they talk so much about is spirit, we can somehow communicate, or the whole thing is a fraud." Then he started to sit in the silence every night to get in touch with God. Like any spiritual practice, the silence must be experienced, committed to, and practiced repeatedly. It is like learning to swim. We cannot learn to swim until we get into the water. When we get in the water for the first time, it might be scary, uncomfortable, or awkward. The more time we spend there, the more time we practice, the greater our sense of ease. We develop a skill set, and ultimately, it becomes as natural as breathing. There once was a farmer who discovered that he had lost his watch in the barn. It was no ordinary watch because it had sentimental value for him. After searching high and low among the hay for a long while, he gave up and enlisted the help of a group of children playing outside of the barn. He promised them that the person who found it would be rewarded. Hearing this, the children hurried inside the barn, went through and around the entire stack of hay, but still could not find the watch. Just when the farmer was about to give up looking for his watch, a little boy went up to him and asked to be given another chance. The farmer looked at him and thought, why not? After all, this kid looks sincere enough. So the farmer sent the little boy back in the barn. After a while, the little boy came out with the watch in his hand. The farmer was both happy and surprised, and so he asked the boy how he succeeded where the rest had failed. The boy replied, "I did nothing but sit on the ground and listen. In the silence, I heard the ticking of the watch and just looked for it in that direction." Friends, taking time to be in silence, even for a short time, can be surprisingly illuminating. It has been used as a prayerful path by spiritual and religious seekers for millennia, and for good reason. Time without the distractions of conversation and others' thoughts creates space for your inner wisdom to get through. The infinite source, which some people call God or the divine or the universal mind, has access to your soul's journey and knows the bigger picture for your life. It always knows the highest and best for you. And if you create time and space for the guidance to get through, it can astonish you with its insights and suggestions for life's problems and challenges. It is like a loving, benevolent, guiding hand, showing you the next steps to take, one at a time. But this quiet and subtle presence cannot get through to you unless we slow down and become still enough to hear, feel, benefit from its gifts to us. Yes, the intention of silence is to make conscious contact with God. We set aside the distractions of the world and connect deeply with the essence of our being. And as we align in consciousness, as we swim in the ocean of silence, we develop a conscious inner awareness. We experience the silence as the constant abiding foundation of all that arises and falls away in this world. We see the play of consciousness for what it is and align with the eternal presence of God. We see with new eyes, hear with new ears. We live what is described as the peace that passes all understanding. How do you begin? It's quite simple. Sit quietly in the silence. If you need a focus, follow your breath. If your mind chatters, and it will, just gently return focus to your breath. If you say to someone, be silent, well, it may be easy for them to stop talking. However, to stop the mind talking is a whole different thing. In fact, it may not be until we sit in the silence that we realize how much is going on in our minds and how it is draining us of our energy. It can actually be a bit of a shock when you see how much energy your mind is wasting on things that are useless, mundane, ordinary, negative, or weak. Some instruction is invaluable at this point to overcome being flooded with the realization of how astray our mind has gone. Ideally, it is best if you can find somewhere you can be alone and know you won't be disturbed. To get the best results, you will need to disconnect from all technology. So before you start, disconnect from the outside world and go within. When we sit to go into the silence, usually what happens is that the superficial thoughts of our day-to-day activities come into our minds. At this point, remind yourself that you can be selective about your thoughts, that you can choose your thoughts. Choose to set those of your day-to-day activities aside for now. Say to yourself, okay, now I am going to go deeper inside. What are the benefits of practicing silence in this way? The first benefit is to get to know the self more and more. Of course, you know who you are. Then again, of course, you don't. To know the self is a very beautiful experience and a very important one. The other main benefit is that silence allows you to deepen your relationship with God. And this brings you to the possibility of truly changing your deep-seated habits and tendencies, those developed and acquired over the years, and that you seek to change. Lao Tzu said, silence is a great source of strength, or the source of great strength. Friends, allow for a few minutes of silence every day and see how sharply it helps you to set your life the way you expect it to be. In the silence, we enter a powerful state of being. We come into an awareness that is beyond spoken words, thoughts that flow, or stories we have told ourselves. We are better equipped to look at how we react to the world around us and can better observe how we have labeled ourselves based on those reactions. Each time we touch this state of quietude and presence, we return to the busyness of life changed in a way that allows us to be less reactive and more responsive. We're more likely to make choices that align with our highest good. And we continually grow less stressed and more capable and experience overall well-being. Yet simply practicing the silence will not get us anything. We must make a conscious connection with God, our source. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14 teaches us that spiritual things are spiritually discerned. Thus, practicing the silence brings our consciousness into the direct experience of God. It is that simple. It is that profound. Begin today. Raise your consciousness and your chance for greater opportunities by centering in silence. Be astonished with the new insights and suggestions for life's problems and challenges. Remind yourself that you are only as strong as your connection with your higher power or source. If you do, I promise you, your territory will expand, your life and health will improve, Your finances will increase, and you will see, know, and be guided to your next best steps and options. Friends, are you willing to do this with me today? Well, thank you all, and God bless you.